welcome back live to the DMACC Urban Campus here in Des Moines for our 3rd District Republican Congressional District debate. This second half hour as we bring the candidates back here. We've gone over a variety of topics so far. Let's talk about one that I think this one we received the most questions from viewers about. It can be a touchy subject with some people. It can be an emotional topic. It's January 6th, what happened on 2021, as we know. Donald Trump held that rally beforehand. There were thousands of people at this rally. One of you, one of our candidates here was at that rally on that day back then. Some people then rushed into the U.S. Capitol building as Congress was getting ready to certify the election results from 2020. Ms. Hasso, I think it is your turn to go first on this. As you look back at that day, was it justified in what happened? How do you, when you're talking to people, talking to voters, how do you describe that day?
You know, I am a big proponent. I stand with anyone who breaks the law. There's consequences. I do believe in due process. And my concern about the people who were arrested that day, are they getting the same due process? One of the things that concerns me is back in 2020 when we had all the peaceful protests and the peaceful riots where people burned down buildings, held communities hostage, and took the livelihood of small businesses. And those people, they were arrested, but it was called catch and release. Catch and release. So if you're going to hold someone accountable for breaking the law, it needs to be across the board. It doesn't matter if you're in Congress. It doesn't matter if you're in the White House. It doesn't matter if you are a senator, if you are a citizen. If you break the law, you should be held accountable. And that is just not an option. And we were held hostage. Look at Seattle. So you mean to tell me that everyone that was in Chaz is now in jail serving time for destroying a community? I find that hard to believe. But yet and still, we have people who did what they did on January 6th, and we're just getting around to telling them about their due process. It has to be even. We cannot pick and choose who's going to be prosecuted, who's not going to be prosecuted, or when they're going to be prosecuted. They have rights, just like everyone else. And if they break the law, they need to have due process.
Mr. Loeffler, you were there. You said you did not go into the building as those others who stormed in there. For those who went in there, attacked the law enforcement, damaged property there, did they commit crimes?
Absolutely. And they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I was there that day. The fact that they called a lot of the people that were there that day insurrectionists is a lie. There was a certain element that went there and they had an ulterior motive. That's absolutely true. But for the million people plus that were there for the right reason, to support American values, to support we the people, they were there for the right reasons.
Mr. Nunn.
So I think we all look at January 6th as a tragic day in America's history, rightfully so. And everyone on both sides of the aisle has said that because it's the right thing. For those officers who put themselves on the front line, they did that with very little information that was given to them, doing the best they could. My airmen and soldiers in the National Guard went on to spend the next several months protecting that building because no plan had been put in place. But let's look at the reasons why people feel frustrated about the election process in America. We here in Iowa do it very well. We have nonpartisan redistricting. We make sure that every vote that is taken has a paper ballot to back it up. But Cindy Axne, the opponent in this race, has tried to pass H.R. 1, which would nationalize all elections and bottle it up in a Washington, D.C. run form of election monitoring, implementation, and verification. Our states have done very well at this, and when they have questions, we have a legal process in place to afford people to vet that, review it, and question it. Imagine a world where Congress takes over every state's election. I think that people have a right to be upset. But if you break the law, then you're going to pay the time for it. I don't care what party you're from.
Dolly Jones had sent in, so do you agree with Donald Trump that the election was stolen in 2020? Is there any of you who believe in that? Before we move on.
Yeah,
So
I would
fraud did not.
I would say this. My son is a major in the Army. He has a commander. And the Chief Justice of the United States put a Bible. Joe Biden put his hand on that Bible. He was sworn in, whether you like it or not. He is the President of the United States. He was sworn in, so there's no question. My son will tell you this. He says, Dad, I've had commanders that I like and maybe not have respected, but he said, I followed their orders. And that's where I stand on that. He is the legitimate President of the United States.
And you all have
He
seen-
is the president, and
Okay.
there's no denying that. He is who he is, and we need to make sure that we're holding him accountable and that he is working for the American people.
Look, here's the situation. Joe Biden is the President of the United States. But the next question is, how's that working out for everybody?
Is there anything that any of the three of you would suggest to make people feel more certain about the elections going forward? Are there extra security measures, anything we need to get rid of?
We have
And
a
one of
great
the
process
things
in
that
place
they've
here in Iowa.
done
You look
in
at the
Iowa.
Secretary of State, we have a hard ballot for every time we take an election. We have some of the best voting policies in place. You show your ID in Iowa so you know you have the right to vote. You can track it, you can trace it, you can verify it. Let's use the Iowa model if we're going to use any model.
You know, one of the things I am so proud of Governor Reynolds for signing a bill and making sure that Iowa is responsible, that we can be confident in what we've done with our voting here in Iowa. And Secretary Pate has done an amazing job. We have won each one of those lawsuits that has come against him. And I'm confident that the state of Iowa, that my vote does count here in this state. Now, every other state needs to follow suit, needs to make sure that their citizens are feeling confident in going to the polls and voting, and that they know that it's going to count.
Ms. Hasso, I think you're the one who brought it up when you're talking about Seattle, I think. If we back off and talk about how the impetus behind those March for Racial Justice a couple years ago, we're not going to get in a big debate about CRT and all that kind of stuff. I think we all probably know where you all stand on that. As you step back, though, the concept of racial inequalities and our past and our future, I think it's Ms. Hasso's turn. Sorry if I got out of whack here.
Well, Dave, before we go there, could I get a chance to respond to the voter integrity?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I was the only person standing up here today that was called on by the governor to go up and testify for voter ID and voter integrity. What was amazing was this, how complicated the situation had become. When I walked into the hearing room, I pulled out an Iowa fishing guide. And I read the qualifications to get a fishing license in the state of Iowa. And everyone in the room started to laugh. And I said, simply this, we should have the same regulations to be able to vote in Iowa as it is to get a fishing license. It's really that much common sense, folks. We need to have voter integrity, voter ID. Paul Pate is an unsung hero, and he's done a remarkable job.
Okay. Ms. Hasso, let's go to you. What do you think is the best way our communities need to talk about both our past when it comes to racial injustice and our future? And we don't want to dive into CRT and all that kind of stuff. But as a member of Congress, and you would have a historic role in this, obviously, in our state, if you should get elected. But just kind of big picture, any member of Congress, if you will, what the ultimate responsibility of these conversations, how should our country have these?
You know what? As I've been traveling to all 21 counties, I've had the privilege and the honor to sit down with farmers and to hear their story. And the state of Iowa has such a rich history that it just blows my mind. I don't know if anyone is aware that in Guthrie County, there's 2 farms that was part of the Underground Railroad, which just blows my mind. In Casey, Iowa, in June, they do a tour of where everyone, when the slaves was coming up from the South, how where all the different places that they went and how they made it to the farm. It doesn't stop just in West Des Moines, but it actually goes through Guthrie County. I am such a blessed woman today to have that opportunity to hear some of these amazing stories. I was down in Creston, and we were door knocking at some of the farms, and there was a wife sitting out on the porch, and I jumped out of the car and I said, "Hi, I'm Nicole Hassel, and I'm running for U.S. Congress." And she said, "Stop right there. I got to get my husband. Don't say a word. He's going to love this." And I was like, "Okay." And so she runs and she yells at the door and she's telling, "Honey, you have to come out here. There's a politician to see you." And I was laughing so hard. He comes out. He said, "Holy crap, there is a politician here to see me." And we had so much fun. And you know what? That's where it starts. Sitting down, having those conversations. They didn't want me to leave. And he made sure that I went up the road to make sure that I spoke with his neighbor. We have to unite. We have been divided for too long. It is okay to sit at the table and walk away from the table to agree to disagree. Families have been broken up. Friendships has been ended. We have to stop the madness and come together.
All right, Mr. Loeffler, how do we address this, especially as your role in Congress?
Well, number one is having a connectivity with the people. Being able to sit down and having a conversation with people and actually understanding where they're coming from and who they are. In business, we had part of my responsibility in my securities business was we had 6 offices in downtown New York City. And so can you imagine, as the Iowa guy flies into New York City, they had a lot of fun with me, Dave. It was a highly entertaining situation. But getting to know people from, it was, but getting to know people from nearly every country in the world, people from Haiti, people from Jamaica, all kinds of cultures, all kinds of situations. Take that kind of, that kind of relationships that you have, you take those into Congress and you work on them. Like right now, currently as a construction consultant here in Des Moines, I work with a lot of Hispanics, and they are wonderful people. So let's just not rule it into that one category, because a lot of people can face discrimination. A lot of people can face pushback. And so I've been blessed in my lifetime to work with all kinds of nationalities, all kinds of people, and have a great relationship with them. And God has blessed me richly in that area of my life.
Mr. Nunn, how does this conversation, how should this happen, and is there a role as a congressman you would have in this?
Yeah, Dave, great question. And it's an important question for our time. You know, my daughter often quotes some of the musicals she's learning, and her favorite line is, "To love another person is to see the face of God." It's a commentary on our humanity, that we should be able to see in another person what's best about our larger community. And so when we look at Iowa, we look at some of the things, not just sitting down and talking about doing good, but in Congress we should be leading. Again, I think we look at some of the things that we've done very well here. We've tried to say, how do we best get families back together? And Iowa was one of the first states that said, if you're a nonviolent first-time marijuana offender, as opposed to spending a mandatory minimum in prison, let's get you back into the community in a drug rehab program. And it's not just because it's cheaper, although it is, $10,000 a year to put somebody in prison as much as sending them to college, or $5 a day to get them into a drug rehab program, but it's because it gives back to their community. They get to be a dad to their kid again. They get to go back to work and start working in a community. And it's important because there are intrinsically individuals in this community that we call Iowa who are starting off at a harder slope. And so teaching core skills, not just at the high school level, but what we've done here is to say, we want to get people into the trade programs, to give people a leg up where they can earn a middle-class life. And it doesn't matter what your background is, you have the opportunity. And here in Iowa, as a guardsman, one of the great things that we do is we look across communities to say, how do we help people pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and not depend on the government to be the one to help them find a pathway forward? We've done this repeatedly, and I'm proud to say that Iowa has some pretty incredible accolades. One, we sent more of our men and women to serve in the Civil War than any other country as a percentage of our population, and we continue that tradition today. We bring in more persecuted people from around the globe as a percentage of our population than any other state. Burma, Afghanistan, the Middle East. These people have a pathway into our state, and they become some of the best citizens that we have because of their hard work, but because they believe in that very decent principle of seeing their Creator in the face of another person. And they've made a commitment to our community. We should make the same to them wherever we are.
Okay, I want to work in another question we have from a viewer here. Now, this is going to be kind of a softball one here, so try to be super short if you can here. But you ought to be able to answer this one in your sleep if you're running for this job. It's from Normand Yelmeland, and it's just basically, and I think, Mr. Loeffler, you can start if you will here. What case do you make before voters for the general election? What's your general election argument of why you're the better candidate than Cindy Axne?
Well, let's start off with what Cindy said to Iowa Press last November. She said the number one reason that she decided not to run for governor, the reason that she decided to run for Congress was this: to put money in people's pockets. Now let's look at Cindy's track record on this. Cindy, $600,000, Iowans, $5,200 less. Michelle Obama said it right. When they go low, we go high. And Cindy's definition of us going low is $5,200 less, and her definition of going high is $600,000 more in her pocket. She doesn't represent
What are you talking
Iowa
about
Day
with 600,000? What are you talking about?
on her stock trades.
Okay.
I mean, that's the estimated what her profit was on those stock trades was nearly $600,000. That's been widely reported.
And are you saying she did something illegal, or what's your point?
Well, I would love to see that investigated, because the companies she invested in were companies that she had direct oversight on. And it was a little bit sketchy as to what exactly happened there. Maybe nothing happened that was wrong, but it sure does look fishy when it looks like she's netting nearly $600,000.
Okay, Mr. Nunn, what's your general election argument?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for Iowans paying attention to this, because I think it's important that every Iowan's voice is heard. In the last election, Cindy Axne won one county, Polk County. I'm proud in the new 3rd District to be the only candidate who is certified in all 21 counties, because we took the time to actually listen to Iowans and know that this 3rd District represents everybody's voice, from Osceola to Oskaloosa to Wapello to Altoona. And here's an important part. When Cindy Axne says she represents all Iowans and has actually stood up to her leadership, we just need to look at her voting record to see the 100% voting record she has with Nancy Pelosi. Here's what I promise. I've had the privilege of getting to serve my community 3 times, and in each election it was a purple district. We ran in a district where they said no Republican should represent because they can't win there. And we won that district by 12 percentage points. We went on to run in the Senate and turn it Republican, and we won that 6-decade Democratic seat by 14 percentage points. But we do that by not winning not just Republicans, but by talking to all Iowans in the community. Because I believe the majority of what we have passed in the State House has passed at a largely bipartisan level, upwards of 90%. Iowans want results. They don't want partisan politics. Cindy Axne has taken partisan politics to a new high. And if we want to hold the Biden administration accountable, and specifically Congress, we have to win this seat. This will be the top 3 most important seats to win back Congress this year. We need to have a candidate who not only can keep track with her, but can best her on every level. And we've had a record of doing that.
All right, Ms. Hazel, what's your general election argument?
You know what? I'm not a politician. I am a conservative. I am a Christian. I am a wife. I am a mother. I am a woman and a biologist. Now is not the time for politics as usual. We cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. We have to choose someone who's going to stand up against Cindy Axne. In the last cycle, we are evenly split here in this district when it comes to voters. We have even Republicans, even Democrats, as well as independents. Our voting history in this district, we have 52% women votes. The last election cycle, Trump won, but Cindy Axne was able to keep her seat. Now, I'm a fired up and fed up mom, and you know what? There's a whole lot of fired up and fed up moms out there, and there is a lot that is being discussed in our schools that we are not agreeing with. And I have been down at the Capitol speaking on our children's behalf when it comes down to transparency, when it comes down to parents' choice. I will die on this hill. Our children are the best thing that has ever happened in our lives. And we are not going to give up our parental rights to anyone. And so, Cindy Axne, you had some funny trades going on, $645,000 that you did not report. As a person who is securities licensed, if I do not report everything that I sell and that I buy, they will throw me under the bus. I will be terminated. And Miss Cindy Axne, we need to sign, we, the taxpayers, need to sign your termination papers, and it is time for Miss Cindy Axne to go home.
Okay, Congresswoman Axne has a question for all of you, and specifically it was about the bill that the House passed. So it's $52 billion. Basically, it's to address the shortage of those computer chips, which is why you have to wait so long to get a new smartphone or get a new car, all those kind of things. So they're trying to put $52 billion in there so that plants in the U.S. can make these, so the country can be less reliant on these materials coming from China. So Mr. Nunn, this would be first for you, but do you think that is a good use of taxpayer dollars? That's what Congresswoman Axne wants to know.
Congresswoman Axne, the first thing I would do is say, what have you been doing to support Taiwan, the #1 who provides our chips here in Iowa? 2, have you gone out to visit a number of the manufacturers right here in our state? I was at Creative Works the other day as they built microboard processors. We have a thriving opportunity and capability indigenously. Let's invest in that. Now, 2 things here. First, you've got to be able to stand up to places like China, because we've had great businesses that have had their intellectual property theft taken away from them repeatedly, and the federal government, including your time in Congress, has done nothing to stop it. Cindy Axne, I'm glad that you're asking us questions, but we've got a few for you. First off, you call Iowans crazy and Christians crazy because they don't have your federal mandated vaccine. Cindy Axne, you sit on the Financial Oversight Committee that's supposed to be in charge of protecting Americans, but instead you forget to report over 40 stock trades, a violation of the Stock Act, and then walk away with up to $645,000 in your pocket or more?
Okay, we got to get moving here. We're getting to the end.
Finally, Cindy, I look forward to being able to have an opportunity to have this conversation with you directly, because there's a lot of questions Iowans have for you.
Okay, do you agree with the House plan or not?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Hasso, do you like that idea of $52 billion to make that stuff here?
I absolutely do. We need to bring back manufacturing jobs here to United States. We need to put America first. And Ms. Axne will love to sit down and have a conversation with you. You align with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time. You are more concerned with the East Coast as opposed to, and the West Coast as opposed to Iowa. And now you need to decide, are you going to stand up for Iowans, or are you going to continue to let the East Coast and West Coast fill your pockets?
All right, Mr. Loeffler.
I think there's even a more pressing issue than that, David. The fact that 90% of our antibiotics are produced in China. To me, that represents a national security crisis. It represents a national health crisis. I talked to Secretary Mike Naig, Secretary of Ag Mike Naig. We can produce those antibiotics right here in the state of Iowa. We have the capabilities. We have the facilities. We need to bring that home. To the chip question, absolutely, we need to bring that home. We need a secure America. We need an America First policy. And until we have that mindset, until we have that creativity going,
Coming up on the news at noon, that leaked abortion rights draft opinion.
Plus, the intensity regarding race, what our children should learn about the past and whose role it is to teach them. There's Russia's attack on Ukraine, millions fleeing for their lives, food and fuel supplies strained across the world. And what this means for elections, for truth, and for this country's future. For the next hour, for the first time, the three Iowa Republicans who believe they can best serve the state's 3rd congressional district will debate here on the Des Moines Area Community College urban campus, all with their eyes on the upcoming June primary and Democrat Cindy Axne, who awaits the winner in November.
Antibiotics back to America. Let's don't let that be a national health crisis. Let's not let that be a national security crisis. First day in Congress, on the floor, we will write a bill and present it to the American people and to Congress to bring those antibiotics back to America.
All right, Mr. Nunn, final words.
Safe.
Your priority.
Economy, economy, economy. Look, I've been a proven leader for you when it comes to balancing the budget here in the state. Congress has not done that. I've been a proven leader when it comes to cutting taxes for you, for more money in your pocket. I want to be able to do the same in Washington, D.C. I've been a proven leader for you on the combat field. We need to secure not only our border, but our national security, and that comes from being an economic superpower in the world. We can't do that when we're going into debt every year. Let's lead.
All right. Thank you all to our candidates. Thank you very much to those of you gathering here. Thank you to DMAC. Thank you to the Polk County Republicans for organizing all of this.
Thank you, guys.
June primary is the 7th of June, where these three candidates will be on the ballot. Thanks for being with us. The WHO 13 News at 5 is next.